In this video, we look at how you can use the SmartView Wizard to start a new SmartView report and have the SmartView Wizard automatically build the SmartView formulas for you. As always, we'll start by connecting a new workbook. Then in the Wizard ribbon, select the Add Report, New Formula Grid option. And this will add a new worksheet containing a SmartView report template, with a single SmartView formula as a starting point for your report. In the top left corner of the grid is the name of the SmartView connection, and the column next to that is where you would enter the account member labels, and in the first two rows of the grid is where you would enter the member labels for the period and year dimensions. A new grid always starts with these default dimensions, but you can very easily overtype with different dimensions or add new dimensions to the report, and we'll look at that later in the video. The single SmartView HSGetValue formula is linked to the member labels in the rows and the columns, and also to the SmartView connection name in the top left-hand corner. The dimensions not specified in the rows and the columns come from the Excel formula POV. The formula POV is created by the SmartView ribbon and contains the full background point of view for the current worksheet. The full background point of view in the POV formula is displayed at the top of the SmartView report. And another formula equals POV_DESC displays the descriptions of the visible dimensions in the background point of view. To start editing the report, simply overtype the default account member label with a new account member label, and then select the Refresh button. To add new rows to the report, type in the new account member labels into the Account column. And then to add the SmartView formula, select the top half of the Build Formula button, and the HSGetValue SmartView formula will automatically be added to the appropriate empty cells at the intersection of the row and column headers. If you don't happen to know the member labels, you can choose them from the metadata. To do this, select the Change Edit POV button, and the metadata for the current dimension will be displayed. Initially, this form will display the dimension in the rows, or the account dimension in this example. To change the member label of the current cell, simply select the new member label and it appears on the right-hand side of the form. Then select the Apply button to update the current cell. The member label in the worksheet will now be updated. Then select the down arrow to move the active cell down to the next row. Select the member label for this row, and the Apply button again to add it to the worksheet, and repeat this cycle for each of the member labels you want to add to the report. And when you've finished adding this section of member labels, select the Close button. The SmartView formula are automatically added when the form closes. You can still add more rows to the report manually if you know the member labels, and use the top half of the Build Formula buttons to add in the SmartView formula. Let's look at the columns in the report now. The period member label, JUL, is actually a formula equals period minus 0, and this corresponds to the period displayed in the background point of view. And the year member label is also a formula equals year underscore period minus 0. To create a new column in the report, the easiest thing is to copy these member label cells, paste them into the new column, and then edit the formula. The formula period minus 0 refers to the current period in the background point of view, whereas the formula period minus 1 refers to the period prior to the current period in the background point of view. And you can enter a number in the period minus formula from 0 to 12. If the current period is July, then period minus 1 is June. The year member has a similar formula, and it's always recommended to use the period minus and year period minus formulas together. This is because any period offset from the current period could potentially be in a different year. So when we change the period member to be offset by 1, we should also change the year formula to be offset by 1. Of course, there's nothing to stop you simply hard coding in the period and year member labels. It just means that you won't be able to change the period point of view. Then, as before, click the Build Formula button to add the SmartView formula to the new column. Let's copy these two columns to create two more columns. and we'll offset the year formula by 2 years by adding -2 to the end of the formula. And the same to the year period -1 formula. Because the year formula just returns a number, you can use simple Excel notation to offset it by X number of years. Suppose we now want to add another dimension to the column headers, in which case we would use the Change Edit Dimensions button. In the Manage Dimensions form, we check the option that we want to add new dimensions to the column, then choose the dimension we want to add, and that we want to add it below the year dimension, and finally we select the Insert button, and the View dimension has been inserted underneath the year dimension. Using the Edit Dimension forms will automatically update all the SmartView formula to include the new dimension. Of course, you could manually add new dimensions to the report by inserting new rows or columns, but then after that you would have to use the Build Formula button to rebuild every SmartView formula. The next step is to add the member labels to the newly inserted dimension, either manually or by using the Change Edit Cell POV option. This time we're editing the column headers. You can add more column headers or row headers to the report. Just remember to put the member labels in the correct rows or columns, and use the grey border as a guideline for the outer limits of the reporting area. But it doesn't matter if you extend your report beyond the end of the grey cells. Once you've built the structure of your report, you may want to add some additional formatting to make the report more presentable, particularly if you're going to print it. You could add a title to the report in row 3. Then once you've finished applying the formatting, you can use the Edit Mode button to switch to Report Mode, which will hide all the member labels and the SmartView grid border. But the POV and member labels can be displayed for printing should you wish. In this video we've looked at how you can create a new SmartView report using the SmartView wizard, and how you can then edit the report either manually or by using some of the SmartView wizard's features.